I wasn't going to say anything or cover the plane crash story out of DC. Despite being qualified, I am a trained pilot. I did work as an aviation journalist for almost a decade. But there's a lot of opinions out there and a lot of voices, and I didn't feel it was necessary to add my voice to that in this moment so soon after the tragic accident. But I do want to say something about Donald Trump's press conference, which is and was one of the weirdest things I have ever seen, especially in the wake of a disaster such as this. Just from beginning to end, it was an embarrassing display of self-obsession and abuse and offensive rhetoric, trying to turn this disaster, this accident, into an issue about people of minority groups, disabled people, people of color, and women, I presume. And I can only guess that as Donald Trump hears a female voice on air traffic control in the recordings, that he will ban women from being air traffic controllers. Firstly, he started the press conference by getting up and without saying anything, without even introducing the conference, he just said, let's have a moment's silence for the victims, which was obviously been told to say that, and he could only remember it for a short amount of time, so he just did it first before even saying why everybody was there. It was very weird. And then he went on to claim that whilst these investigations normally take years, that he has opinions and he will make sure that his opinions about what happened are heard. Again, completely unpresidential, unprofessional, and not the type of thing that you want to hear, especially if you are a grieving family after the loss of 64 people on this civilian passenger jet, this American Airlines, American Eagle flight that crashed into a Black Hawk helicopter.
We do not know what led to this crash, but we have some very strong opinions and ideas, and I think we'll probably state those opinions now. Because over the years I've watched as things like this happen, and they say, well, we're always investigating, and then the investigation 3 years later, they announce it. We think we have some pretty good ideas.
It suggests to me that Donald Trump is not just unfit for purpose, but is so mentally unwell, and we've talked about his mental health many, many times, and for some reason people have stopped talking about it since he won the election. People are now kind of accepting that, okay, well, he's just Trump is Trump. Trump is unfit not just for the presidency, but for any job. And the psychiatrists that have studied him have said that he would not get any job in any role, under any employment, anywhere, with his psychopathy.
We must have only the highest standards for those who work in our aviation system. I changed the Obama standards from very mediocre at best to extraordinary. You remember that. Only the highest aptitude, they have to be the highest intellect and psychologically superior people were allowed to qualify for air traffic controllers.
And this is something that we have to think about in these moments when we rely on the commander-in-chief to make us safe, keep us safe.
So as you know, last week, long before the crash, I signed an executive order restoring our highest standards for air traffic controllers and other important jobs throughout the country. So it was very interesting. About a week ago, almost upon entering office, I signed something last week that was an executive order, very powerful, on restoring the highest standards of air traffic controllers and others, by the way. Then my administration will set the highest possible bar for aviation safety. We have to have our smartest people. It doesn't matter what they look like, how they speak, who they are. It matters intellect, talent, the word talent. They have to be talented, naturally talented geniuses. You can't have regular people doing that job. They won't be able to do it. The FAA website shows that the agency's guidance on diversity hiring were last updated on March 23rd of 22. They wanted to make it even more so. And then I came in, and I assume maybe this is the reason. The FAA, which is overseen by Secretary Pete Buttigieg, a real winner. That guy's a real winner. Do you know how badly everything's run since he's run this Department of Transportation? He's a disaster. He was a disaster as a mayor. He ran his city into the ground, and he's a disaster now. He's just got a good line of bullshit.
So he referenced a Fox News biased article about the FAA during this press conference to describe that the likely cause of this crash was because of diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. And this is my greatest concern, is that he is using this as a political tool to ban anybody that doesn't fit his description. And he read from this article that was total nonsense. It was a hack piece trying to criticize Pete Buttigieg and talk about how the FAA are employing DEI hires and pushing to do that. Now, the FAA employs tens of thousands of people. It is not going to put people who are mentally compromised in a control tower or at an air traffic control center. It doesn't work like that. But the FAA does hire receptionists and assistants and administrators, many of whom can fit the DEI requirement to ensure that everybody gets access to a job. But Trump, of course, doesn't care for the detail. He reads this Fox News article that Elon Musk had once made a whole scene about. Musk doesn't get on with the FAA because they have prevented him from being the free aviation spirit that he chooses to be with his rockets, incidentally. So there is an issue there. But by using these biased articles to claim that there is a problem when there is not a problem, it's so childlike.
Various articles that appeared prior to my entering office, and here's one. The FAA's diversity push includes focus on hiring people with severe intellectual and psychiatric disabilities. That is amazing. The initiative is part of the FAA's diversity and inclusion hiring plan. Think of that. The initiative is part of the FAA's diversity and inclusion hiring plan, which says diversity is integral to achieving FAA's mission of ensuring safe and efficient travel. I don't think so. I think it's just the opposite.
To turn this into a political issue, he claimed that he had cancelled all DEI just a few days before the crash, and that exonerates him from having anything to do with this crash, and that he knew that if Biden hadn't have pushed for DEI, this crash would never have happened. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? He expects you and I to believe this garbage? Nobody believes him. Hopefully, everybody can see through this.
This was a job that had to be superior intelligence, and we didn't really have that, and we had it. And then when I left office and Biden took over, he changed them back to lower than ever before. I put safety first. Obama, Biden, and the Democrats put policy first. And they put politics at a level that nobody's ever seen, because this was the lowest level. Their policy was horrible, and their politics was even worse.
I just think about the families of the people who have lost their loved ones in these crashes, both the 3 military personnel on the Black Hawk helicopter and the 64 people on the American Eagle flight. How must they be reacting to seeing the President of the United States get on stage and talk in the most offensive and abusive way about his version of events, like he's suddenly an expert, when we know that he knows nothing about anything. This is what America is having to deal with right now. And I'm not convinced that the United States can survive this presidency in terms of us feeling like somebody has got our back, that the nation is safe and protected. The idea of putting a Fox News host in charge of the Department of Defense, that is going to bring its own challenges and scandals and issues going forward. America is not safe with these kinds of people in charge. And, aviation is extremely safe. I've been to an air traffic control center, one of the largest in Europe. It is a zen place. It is not chaotic. And people are psychologically tested. And air traffic controllers work short shifts, an hour on, an hour off. They are encouraged to rest. It is an environment unlike any I've ever seen before. Meanwhile, Donald Trump, in his mind, there's a chaotic control tower with people in wheelchairs and women feeling like they're too emotional to be air traffic controllers. That's what is in his mind. And that's why I guarantee that he will continue down this road, preventing people who are not white, male, straight from taking these types of jobs, as they used to be, of course, decades ago when all air traffic controllers were white men. So this has become an issue of race, of misogyny, and of prejudice towards people who don't look like Trump and his cronies. And I fear that we are not safe under this administration. I'm Anthony Davis. You can find me on the 5 Minute News YouTube channel and podcast, on Wednesdays co-hosting Uncovered, and on Sunday on the Weekend Show with MeidasTouch.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.